So you run a small e-commerce store and you want to improve in a way where you can measure those improvements with A/B testing. It's just that you have the challenge of limited traffic, of course, and limited conversions to really know what an improvement is or is not. Well, in this video, we'll address this exact issue, and I'll go over how you, as a small e-commerce store merchant, can still conduct effective A/B testing, even with limited transactions. I myself am Samuel Larsen, founder of Grow Gurus, a team that specializes to get stores to 7 figures and beyond. If you are selling at least 50K per month online, you can book a call with me. Link is in the description. So let's start from the beginning. Why would you want to test in the first place? Why is this important? Well, there's only so many things that are obvious and no-brainers that you have so much confidence on that you can just implement straight away and not worry about the performance. So you can't just blindly implement everything and not measure the results. Measuring the results is where A/B testing really shines, because different things will perform quite differently based on different stores, niches, traffic. So testing is something that can also help you mentally as well, as you now have confidence in your store and its improvements going forward. And of course, from testing, you can also learn and experiment then to find the best overall approaches. Now, small merchants obviously have less volume than big merchants, and that makes it harder for them to test and get a lot of return from that A/B testing effort. However, that doesn't mean that a smaller store couldn't test at all. And this leads me to a common misconception about A/B testing, because A/B testing is not really dependent on traffic, but on conversions. And we can define what the conversion is. So A/B testing in general, if you're testing for transactions, is easier on lower average order value stores because they tend to have more conversions. From an A/B testing perspective, a store that does less than 1,000 conversions or transactions per month is a store where you have serious limitations. And there are ways to go around these limitations, and I'll cover them next. We have a few here. The most common one is lowering the confidence threshold needed to conclude winners. So instead of going for the typical 95% confidence threshold, which essentially means that 19 times out of 20, your test is going to be a winner, you can say go for 80%, which means that 4 times out of 5, the test will be a winner, and you will have false positive then 20% of the time. That means that yes, you will be wrong 1 time out of 5, but you are still right most of the time. And business is about calculated bets. So you don't need to make exact science here. It all depends on your comfort levels with this stuff. The second way is choosing micrometrics that correlate with macrometrics. So micrometric could be something like an add to cart or a checkout started, and the macrometric would be something like a revenue or transactions. So if you see that there's a lot of correlation between checkout started and transactions, and say your product page test doesn't really push people more to the checkout than the previous version, then in most cases it's very safe to just test on checkouts started, because this will enable you to get more data and a quicker data collection, or alternatively get an improved sample size in the same amount of time. Because again, more conversions, less likely that the individual happenings will basically pollute the data. So you are safer from this perspective. The third way is to look for secondary metrics to validate winners or losers if the primary metric is inconclusive. So what does that mean? Say you are testing primarily for transactions, but the transactions are in a way quite flat. Say you have 100 on the control, 100 on the variant, but then you see a supporting micrometric is really heavily on the variant side. Say you start using checkout started when you are doing say a collection page test. So people end up on the collection page or in the checkout way more often on the variant. And in that case, it's often safe to just implement the variant. Fourth way is choosing to validate non-losers as opposed to only winners. So normally we are looking to see that the variant is a winner as opposed to not a loser. But in this scenario, we are looking to see and ensure that the variant is not going to be worse for the store than the control. And this enables us to move a lot faster, because here again we are essentially taking defensive expensive bet. And okay, we know that this is not going to move the performance backward. So it's either going to be neutral or forward, and that's good enough for us as opposed to only forward. The fifth way is combining tests. So testing full pages with a ton of ideas. Now, the downside of this is that you won't know which individual won, but you'll still be directionally correct. So here, this is very much the case of not letting the perfect situation be the enemy of the good. So if you can validate that your new product page with a bunch of changes is going to be better than the old one, then we're happy to move on with it, even if we don't fully understand why that is, or we can't pinpoint it to a specific criteria. And that's simply because we cannot. Because of the limited data. So that's it. Testing for small merchants, small e-commerce stores, and how you can, in some way, hack your way into testing with the big boys, even if you are not one yourself. And when it comes to testing, you cannot get paralyzed by perfection. Just because something is a bit more challenging doesn't mean that you shouldn't or couldn't do that. Because there are a lot of things that you may not even need to test. But there will be some things that you definitely want to. So it's good to have both in your arsenal. And if you are interested in getting us to help you scale your store to 7, possibly even 8 figures, you can book a call with me to discuss more. Link is in the description. Enjoy. Thank you.